Hello everybody and welcome to the Friday edition of Video Clips. And I have some good news to share with you at the end of this. But somebody sent me this article about a restaurant owner closing in New York City. And I'm going to read just a little bit of it to you. And I wanted to cover this for a couple of reasons. One is that I feel that there's a tendency to think that the pain that has been inflicted on businesses is, oh, well, you're just a capitalist and all you care about is money. And I think people really don't understand sometimes when they say those kinds of things, what business is all about, how businesses contribute to the community, quality of life, employment of people. It's devastating when companies go out of business. In Ohio, just to let you know, in Central Ohio, a couple of competitors of ours are possibly going out of business. A yoga studio. I'm sad about that, and you might wonder, why would I be sad about a competitor going out of business? Probably would be good for me economically, but I'm just sad that a business is closing. It's a failure of our local economy, and I'd much rather have fewer yoga students and that studio stay in business. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but it's really better. What's better for the community is better for all of us, and a healthy community, including a healthy business community, is better for all of us, and that's why I say that. So anyway, I want to talk about this restaurant owner. So Danny Abrams and Cindy Smith opened a restaurant, let me see what the name of it is, the Mermaid Inn, 6 blocks from the World Trade Center, 6 weeks after 9/11, and they were welcomed to the neighborhood, and it was a difficult period of time back then, but Danny says now it's very different. It's hard to compare. Abrams and his partner Cindy Smith run 7 restaurants in New York, and they recently made the decision, very difficult decision, to close this one after more than 17 years. And he says, I think there's a restaurant closing tsunami on the way. It's going to happen after September. People are still trying to hang on. And I see that here in Ohio. The Restaurant Association talks about this all the time, that things are terrible here in Ohio, and you know, there will be a point in time when these people just can't hang on anymore, and they're going to have to close permanently, and that's going to be very, very sad. Already some restaurants that I like very much in Columbus have closed, and I try not to focus on the sad things, but it does make me sad. Like I said, it makes me sad when a competitor closes. The Mermaid Inn, which was known by locals for its happy hour deals, had about 80 seats inside, 20 in the garden, and 16 on the sidewalk. Did a lot of business in the spring and summer. Abrams said, we really needed May, June, July, August, September. If we miss that window and then get to 50% occupancy in October and November, forget about it. Abrams and Smith wrote a detailed letter explaining the closure and detailing the current pressures on independent restaurant operators, and shared it on their Facebook page. The two are currently doing everything they can to reduce expenses at their existing concepts to try to stay afloat until the crisis passes. So they wrote a letter, a farewell letter to their customers, and here's what it said. It is with great sadness that we announce the closing of the Mermaid Inn at 96 2nd Avenue. Our lease expired on August 31st, and we were not able to come to an agreement with the landlord on how to go forward both during and after the pandemic. We want to thank all of our wonderful guests and employees for supporting us over these past years. What began as a little 29-seat restaurant on a sleepy stretch of 2nd Avenue grew into a place that had welcomed hundreds of thousands of guests and employed thousands of people over the years. We all mourn the loss of our favorite restaurants, for they provide us with so much more than food. They provide nourishment for our soul, and when they're gone, much of the soul of the neighborhoods in which they resided will be gone as well. Missing out on seeing our favorite bartender who remembers what we drink, saying hi to our favorite server and sitting at the table that makes us feel most comfortable, talking to the owner about life in general, seeing the hardworking support staff take extra care to provide us with a dropped napkin or a missing fork. All of these small gestures make us feel at home in our neighborhood, and they'll be missing. And that will make our neighborhoods feel lacking as well. Less interesting, less familiar, less inviting. These are one of the things that defines being at home in our community. They're a gathering place to share accounts of our days, to celebrate big events in our lives, or just share a table with our friends. And I think that this is such a well-written letter, because it really goes to the heart of what these criminals and despots have done. They have taken all of the joy of companionship and congregating and the things that make life worth living away, because they see these things as completely unnecessary. They absolutely don't care about the collateral damage. So they actually put, again, I said I wanted to talk about this because these people looked at how much money the restaurant, how the restaurant impacted the community and the country. All right. Over the 17 years the restaurant was in business, 850,000 guests ate there. They paid $15 million in wages to over 2,000 employees, contributed $2.1 million in taxes to the city, state, Medicare, Social Security, etc., unemployment, sent $4 million in sales tax to New York State, paid over $15 million to vendors who they bought things from, and given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city and state for permits and licenses. Now, when you withdraw that kind of money from the economy, everything, everybody, this affects everybody. It affects how much money is available for much needed social services for people who are economically disadvantaged. So this isn't just about rich restaurant owners closing a restaurant and they already have some other ones, so who cares? This is about people losing their jobs. This is about neighborhoods changing in significant ways, not for the better. This is about withdrawing millions and millions and millions of dollars from the economy, including tax money that everybody wants to see go to. Some of the people in fact, one of the things that aggravates me is some of the people who are driving these lockdowns and these policies that put these kinds of people out of business are screaming all the time about how more money is needed to be given away to people who are disadvantaged, and they are actually implementing policies that will make it certain that there will be less money for those people. How they can get up in front of the camera every day with a straight face, or even show themselves in public. I would be mortified if I engaged in that kind of behavior, but they don't care. These people have just been completely disconnected from their humanity. We're providing these numbers to show the effect that the closing of a single restaurant has. Now multiply that by thousands of New York City restaurants closing. The loss of opportunity for employees, the loss of income for city, state, and local governments, and the loss of sales to our fish companies, our vegetable company, the linen company, even the company that comes to take our used oyster shells or our discarded grease. If we don't pay them, they don't pay their employees, and so on and so on. The chain is never ending. The restaurant and hospitality industry has been woefully neglected during this pandemic. Actually, all small businesses have. The Payroll Protection Program has given us 8 weeks of funds for what will be a 52-week problem. And look at who that money was allowed to pay. We are only allowed to pay for payroll, which is good, but also the landlords, the insurance companies, the utility companies. Think about that for a second. Real estate owners, insurance conglomerates, and large utility providers. Not 1 cent could go to the hundreds of small businesses that have provided us with goods and services, not 1 penny. Our restaurants were mandated by the government to close down on March 16th. Some of us had closed in advance of that date for fear that our employees and guests could get sick. We did so willingly so we could do our part. But here we are 5.5 months later, still closed, with no clear indication of what our future holds. There is no clear communication from the city or state that we can point to. As for business in the meantime, we have few options. Delivery, while keeping a few people employed, does not provide any profit for the restaurant. The outdoor seating has helped some restaurants, but it's weather dependent, which leads to a lot of uncertainty. And reopening at 50% for many restaurants is a non-starter. How can a 75-seat restaurant that only makes money in the best of times, given the cost of doing business in New York City, reopen with only 40 seats and no bar? Seriously? You wouldn't even be able to make enough money to pay the employees, let alone pay our rent. We cannot continue to pay our key employees. The federal supplemental insurance has ended. Servers, bartenders, managers, bussers, food runners who've been making a decent living by New York standards are now left with only the unemployment, which pays out $504 a week at the most. How is anybody supposed to provide for a family on $504 per week? And that is for the top earners. Most of the recipients are getting far less than that. This is slow-rolling humanitarian disaster and financial disaster in the making. When a restaurant is forced to close suddenly, as New York City restaurants were, there is no time to prepare for the end. Not only do we lose our income from the business, but now we're saddled with debt to our vendors, utilities, insurance, etc. If someone had said, you have 6 weeks to you have to close your business in 6 months, we could plan and walk away. But the suddenness has left us all unprepared. Restaurants operate owing vendors 30 to 40 days worth of bills. As long as the business continues, everyone gets paid. This is like some cruel game of musical chairs, and when the music stops, small businesses were the ones left without a chair. The larger companies can tap credit lines, take out loans, or avail themselves of other solutions that small businesses don't have. So I won't read the rest of it, but I think that these people did a very good job of explaining that this just isn't about, oh, you're a capitalist, you want everybody to make money. I get that accusation all the time. All you care about is being in business. You don't really care about people getting sick. You don't really care. Well, what kind of sick do you think these people are going to be living on $504 a week or less in New York City? You think that's going to lead to health? Some of you out there who still think this ridiculous way, and it is ridiculous, short-sighted. What happens to the landlord now who can't lease that space? Because if these people can't make it there after being there for 17 years, do you think some new operation is going to come in and figure out a way to operate with 40 tables and no bar? Okay, so this chain reaction, the tax base goes down, Social Security goes down, you withdraw this money from the system, it affects everybody, including you, including the mask-wearing sheeples sitting in the basement, pontificating about how virtuous they are for staying safe. Stay home, stay safe, stay in the basement, wear your mask, close everything down, close a lot of things down anyway. It's such a ludicrous thing that's going on. All right, so good news. So a couple good news from us. First of all, we're having a conference. We are actually having an in the room, everybody in the same room conference in Columbus, Ohio, November 13 through 15. Join us. We're the only people in North America doing it. I like being the only people who do something. It's kind of fun. Tuesday night at Wellness Forum Health is back. Stop in. We have a lot of cooking classes. We show movies and have discussions and potlucks, and always something to do here. And watch our online calendar, because we're going to schedule some events with our attorney who wants to have an opportunity to interact with people. And soon my book will be out, our book will be out, and Shane and I will be doing some teleconference events and events here in the office, book signings and that sort of thing. So watch our calendar. WellnessForumHealth.com and MakeAmericans.com. Make sure you're connected to us in a lot of different ways. And we have some great upcoming courses. Chronic fatigue, I think, is the next one on the list of courses we said we were going to introduce this year. All right, so let's get to some good news, fun things, okay? So first of all, I saw this, somebody sent me the link, and it's a group of people, large group of people, who walked into a Target store, I think in Florida, and they were playing Twisted Sisters, We're Not Gonna Take It Anymore song. And they all took off their masks and they paraded through the store maskless and playing this song, and it was just, it was fun to watch. It was very fun to watch. It was a happy moment, okay? So you can probably find it. Another thing, we had a little episode in Ohio here that I'll share with you. So with a lot of pomp and circumstance, our emperor notified the world. He had hired a new health director, a medical doctor. One of the criticisms that we've levied and others have levied is that he's not even trying to pretend this is about health anymore. The acting director of the Ohio Department of Health is an attorney. He's not a physician or a nurse or no medical training. Probably the best thing, since they're going to have to defend themselves in our lawsuit and other lawsuits. But anyway, so he finally gets a medical doctor to agree to do this, and 5 hours later she resigned. So there was a little scrambling around to try to explain the resignation. And they said, well, she started finding out about how mean everybody was to Amy, the former health director. And she just didn't want to put her family through that. Now, I have to believe that this woman, she had a medical doctor. Let's assume she's pretty smart, because I'm assuming that. But she knew that people were being mean to the health directors around the country before she took the job. So we think, I don't know this, but here I'm surmising. I think she saw the lawsuit and realized that she'd have to come and testify and defend all this stuff. And she said, I don't want anything to do with that. So anyway, that was kind of, we all smiled. And now there was an article in the Columbus Dispatch this morning about how hard it's going to be to find a health director. It sure is, because who in their right mind would let their medical license be put at risk by participating in this activity? Wait till it's time for the discovery. We're going to have so much to share with you every week. It's going to be, I've said for a long time I'd like to do fewer of these broadcasts because they do take a lot of work to put together, but I can't imagine that I could cover it in less than 4 when we start, 4 per week when we start getting all the stuff that we're going to demand in terms of document discovery and subpoenas and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be so much fun. And then Placer County, California ended its health emergency, and the health director quit, and she was kind of petulant when she quit. She said, yeah, I don't see how I'm going to protect the people if they take away all of the emergency restrictions and that sort of thing. And so many of these places, the disconnect between the data and the and what they're doing is ridiculous. I was on a Zoom interview with a woman in Vermont today, and there have been 58 deaths in Vermont, and they just extended the mask mandate through the middle of October. It just doesn't make any sense. And then the state of Pennsylvania, a judge ruled that the lockdown order was unconstitutional. And basically, the one that closed businesses, limited gatherings, unconstitutional. And so that's really good news. Now, the Emperor of Pennsylvania already said he's going to appeal because he doesn't want to lose his power. I mean, you would think that the court said it's unconstitutional. And Pennsylvania's numbers are just like everybody else's. They don't justify all this nonsense. But he says, I'm going to appeal. We got to keep everybody safe, and the only way we can keep them safe is to take their rights away, because people are safest when we make all their decisions for them. I mean, it's just insane. And then Attorney General William Barr on Wednesday of last week ripped efforts by governors around the country to prevent the spread of coronavirus with the lockdowns. He said that he was speaking at an event at Hillsdale College, and he lashed out at the governors in both parties. He was not picking on any particular party. And by the way, just so you know, our emperor is a Republican. He's a criminal despot. In Pennsylvania, it's a Democrat. He's a criminal despot. It's both parties. He says, this is William Barr. He says, putting a national lockdown, stay-at-home orders is like house arrest. Other than slavery, which was a different kind of restraint, this is the greatest intrusion on civil liberties in American history. That's the Attorney General of the United States. So, enough for this week. Enough for today, enough for this week. My email address is pampopper@msn.com. Our website address, WellnessForumHealth.com, and look for postings on our calendar when we add our attorney coming here to do events or teleconferences and that sort of thing. MakeAmericansFreeAgain.com. Our activist website, lots of good stuff, including good news. We put stuff on there that's just happy stuff happening around the world, not just the United States, but around the world. And also lawsuit updates will be posted there. We do conference calls every week to let people know what we're up to. And pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy having their head hurt for a while they learn about it, but learning the truth about all these issues. And I will be back to you next week with more news.